All right, everybody, we've been talking about fusions a lot lately, and I want to keep that conversation going with Zerobrew. Hello, everybody. I'm Roadblock, and this is a Raid Shadow Legends video, and I am not alone today. We've got Zerobrew here. How you doing today, Zerobrew?
What is up, brother? I am so glad to be back on the channel. Thank you so much for having me. I want you to know that after our first collab, like I just been all in on your content and watching all your stuff. But you know what I love? I love your little information. Shoot him, Kevin, and the thing drops down. It's got that nice Southern accent. I'm from the South, so I absolutely love that intro. But thank you for having me on. This is awesome.
Yeah, no, that's actually a real life friend of mine. There's a little story behind that. We were playing Apex Legends, and I don't know if you ever played that, but I had the wingman, yes, and I'm trying to shoot a guy, and for whatever reason, when I play a video game or a shooter game, if they're looking at me, I'll hit my shots. If they're looking left or looking right, I will miss every time. And he was dead and watching me try to hit this guy and miss. And he goes, "Shoot him, Kevin." And I'm like, I'm trying. What do you mean? And so it just became awesome, an inside joke with us. And so I actually reached out to him when I started the channel, and I was like, hey, can I get a recording of Shoot 'em Kevin for it? So shout out to him. He's a good friend of mine, and I always try to get him on my streams when I can. But we're not here to talk about the intro, but I do thank you for the compliment there. We're here to talk about fusions. Real quick, if you're looking to be part of my account takeover series, join the Discord below. But a little heads up, I'll be prioritizing accounts that were started with my exclusive promo link. This will also guarantee you a free legendary Elenaril and 3 amazing free epics as you level up. Here's what you need to do. Log out of Player and Play on PC and uninstall. Click the link in the description and register with a brand new email. Launch Raid and complete the tutorial. Go to your inbox and claim your first champ. You'll get Elenaril for free, along with Uugo, Tagoar, Rector Drath, and a better chance at a takeover. So click my link right now. And I wanted to kind of get your take on how fusions have been going over probably the last year. We'll say like maybe since Armand's. We may include some from a little bit before Armand's in the conversation as well. But I just kind of wanted to get your general take on fusions. So my first question is going to be like, do we think that they're getting better?
Okay, so this is a very mixed response, but just thinking back all the way back to Armand. So I think they're getting better potentially. But when a champion like Armand's comes into the game, and I've been very vocal about how broken he is this whole time, because again, you have cooldowns that are 3 and that used to be S tier champion if you have a 3-turn cooldown, and Armand's brings a 2-turn cooldown that also removes turn meter and stuns. So it's really like the most OP champion. So I will say over the last year, the champions have come in, and some have been meta changing champions, and then I would also say some have been flops. So it's kind of a mixed review on that. I don't know. What do you think?
I would say that they're getting worse. Obviously, there's going to be exceptions in there. Fabian, meta changing, right? Like we can all agree with that. But for me and my money, I look back at a Pythion, New. Those are really the biggest ones that I can remember from back in the day, to be completely honest. But I remember being excited about most fusions. Oh yeah, Mishinaki's another one that I think was a fusion as well. I don't know, he was like a special fusion. I think
he was a guarantee.
Yeah, he was a guarantee. That's right. Yeah.
He's a great champion. He's a great champion.
No, definitely a great champion. But I don't know. When I think about recent fusions, right? I think about Esme. I don't see a lot of her. And I guess for me, it's more that I'm let down. I was so excited for the Valentine's Day fusion because we had Narcissus and Ancora, which were amazing. And I was like, cool, let's give me another Narcissus, Ancora, Siphi, Rhodos level fusion that I can finally take part in, because I couldn't be a part of any of those. I couldn't afford to get Narcissus on my main account. I got Ancora, and my free-to-play wasn't around for any of those fusions. So I was excited for the possibility of a big fusion, and I had saved up void shards for it, and we got Esme and, Quasimodo. And I was pretty disappointed with that. And then while I know know that people are going to come to the defense of these champions when we talk about like Jeroboam and a few of the other hexing demon spawn and a hexing orc that we never got any dogs for. I think one's coming. You know, that's Packmaster Shayak and the Scorid. I've never used them. And I know some people that have. I never really used them. And while Mad Hatter was really good too, I don't see a lot of him in a lot of content either. And so I feel a little underwhelmed compared to Pythion and Newt in particular. Those two in particular are the ones that really come to mind.
And I'll throw another one at you. Nishak is kind of around that Pythion time. Yeah. It's a meta-changing champion. You know, ebbs and flows, and I think the Bombers with Live Arena and the content with that, and of course Stone Skin, it's kind of picked up some speed. Yeah, there he is. Yeah, Nishak, he still can bring it. Now you got the mythical Commodus that comes in and kind of overshadows him, but I've seen people use both of them, and it's like, okay, you're going to get a bomb champion. It depends on if you want the mythical or you want the past fusion. Yeah, so let me play at devil's advocate on you for a half second on this. So I think you're right in the grand scheme of things. I think when we look back past the year and using the champions that we have for the last year, the one thing I'll say is I feel like every now and then they give us those super OP S tier champions, the Pythions, the Nishaks, the Armons, the Fabians, and they do give us those the Sifi Rotos, King and Queen. Those were bangers, right? Mm-hmm. And really the only hard counters to the Marishka Taras setup that's in the game too. But I will say that outside of that, I think they have a plan for maybe 6 months out of what is coming in the game. And the only reason why I say that is, and I will say the current fusion that we're on right now, whatever his name is, I'm not going for him at all. And it's been a nice reprieve because there's been a lot of inflation in the game when it comes to these fusions and stuff. Yeah, this dude, Beastbane, I'm good on my Hydras. They nerfed Hydra with the whole Trunda thing, and now they gave us quick battles, which I'm thankful for the quick battles. It buys us back some time in our life, but I'm not out there to go change my teams. I'm definitely not going to go grab this dude. So I've loved the reprieve here. But I will say I've recently fallen in love with Hansel and Gretel. And when Hansel and Gretel came out and they were the Halloween fusions, when you look at them, I think they're Sacred Order. When they come into the game and people are just like, do we need these nukers? And like, they're good when you read their kits together, and they play off each other. But now you're taking up 2 slots on an arena team, for example, versus 1 slot where you can throw your Sigfried in, or your He-Man, or your huge nuker, or the King and Queen. You would take King and Queen 99.99% of the time over Hansel and Gretel. But I recently made the argument that Hansel and Gretel are the new current meta changers. And the reason why I say that is they did give us Noelle, but with Noelle as a Sir Nick cheese, so that was Christmas. They gave us Alice, which was our free champion, and she has the ability to do the Warlord Yumeko, like cool your skills down. And of course, Fabian has that as well. Well, what's awesome about them is I hear you, puppy. Love the puppy. All right. So what's awesome about them is with their A1s, if they're both on the same team, they have really juicy AoE attacks. And if you build them right, they will hit hard. So I would just tell you, look at their A1s. It turns it from a single target to an AoE. And so if you get locked out by Alice or Fabian, that's great. If you take a fear from Fabian, their passes will throw the fears back on them. Same thing with Empress, because I have mine in Stone Skin. So Empress is the new champion everybody's talking about that people have started to get, and he'll strip your Stone Skin. So that's the only thing I'll just kind of throw out there. I do agree with you. We aren't getting those big banger meta changers right now, but I think they might have a roadmap, and just using the Hansel and Gretel experiment I just talked about. Now, are they meta changers themselves? They're really not. Again, you're going to want to take your He-Man or whatever over them, but they at least are bringing something with their A1s. And even that Esmer, she's a terrible champion. You're 100% right, but she brings an attack up on her A1. So if you wanted to combat a Fabian with a nuker, she can at least buff your attack-based nuker with her A1, and they come in with their A1 and combat the Fabian, for example. All right, I'm going to stop there. I've been running my mouth. What are your thoughts on what I just threw at you?
Yeah, I think you gave me one thing I really wanted to touch on, which was that this is all relative, and I want to be clear about that, right? I'm not saying that all of these champions are terrible. There are probably a lot of people that got a lot of use out of these champions that are in the early game or the mid game, and somebody maybe, I know that Mad Hatter has been making a big play in Hydra in my clan in particular. A lot of people are like, yeah, you should use Mad Hatter for X, Y, and Z. I did not go for that fusion, unfortunately. So, I do regret that. So there's definitely going to be scenarios, and you made a great point, and I never would have known this if you didn't say it. And I think you said you actually have a video on this, right? About Hansel and Gretel? Yeah. So
yes.
Shout out to that video, because check that out, because I didn't realize they are a great Fabian counter, it seems like. Definitely I'm gonna check that out myself. And yeah, so
and I re-geared them. What's crazy is I built them super slow because they have a bunch of turn meter boosts as well, but I re-geared them because I'm trying them in live arena currently. Again, it's not the best in the world, but where I'm at in live arena, I'm going up against those Commodoses and those big nasty stuff, so it's a little bit tough to work them in, but when they work great. And I'll let a Fabian go through against them, which is kind of funny. So I'm trying to figure out some sort of meta play.
So what would we say is probably our final estimation as far as better, worse, or do we think it's somewhere in the middle?
I'm going to say worse in the middle. Okay.
Okay. So closer to the mid, like in the middle, but closer to worse overall.
Yes. Yeah, because this game's been going on, 6 years now. There's only so much they can add to the game. And they've added so much even recently, right? So like just taking a step back and looking down, right? So we've gotten all these extra 9-piece gear sets in the last 2-3 months, right? We've also added relics to the game. And of course the mythicals. Now we've got the faction unity champions. So there's all kinds of tweaks to the existing like core mechanics of the game, I would say. And so I don't want to say they're worse, but I want to say they can't really introduce like that much, game-changing mechanics. I think, Embers is the newest one. They can just outright strip Stone Skin and put Fear out, right? And so that is a core mechanic that has not functioned that way ever. So that's kind of like a meta-shifting, meta-changing situation. But every champion just can't come out and be that. And I agree with you 100%. Depending on where you are in your account, like these champions might be your bread and butter, and they're carrying your account and stuff like that, especially if you're early on and you're using our promo codes, right? and things like that, and getting these starter champions. Yeah, so I think they're mid, pushing on worse. Maybe we get some better stuff to help counter some of this stuff. And just go back to like maybe they have a grand plan. I do say if you have the resources, even if you're a free-to-play person, to go for it, or you just skip. You're going to skip one that you think is going to be terrible and not going to help your account out at all. And each viewer of this video has to make that decision on their own. Potentially go for a fusion if you can, even if you're free to play, or stockpile all your resources if you're going to skip one, and keep those stockpiled, and don't be tempted by the events outside of fusions, and just focus on those fusions, because they will add new areas of the game. Like we know Faction Wars Hard are coming, but when they dropped Sin City on us, when they dropped Siege battles, when they dropped all these different things in the game, and the reason why I call out Siege, it's basically arena, but you don't get the arena bonuses from that. So you might have skipped a champion that had attack in all areas, or a speed in all areas. That would be a great champion to throw in Siege defense, but you didn't have them for that specific reason or whatnot. So yeah, that's my 2 cents on that.
So I'm racking my brain, and there are certainly a few that I forgot to mention that I want to make sure that I give credit to. Like we have got Astrid, who's great, that I forgot to mention. And I think in the short term recent memory before Fabian, and even a little bit after, I would say a little towards the worst side. I think honestly, I'm going to be completely honest with you and my audience here. Straight up, the only reason I really feel this way is because my free to play needs something like a Pythion, and the only time that they gave us something like that was during Christmas, and I couldn't do the fusion because I was out of town on my free to play. So I missed out on that type of support. We're going to pivot a little bit because I didn't put this in the notes or anything for the video, but do you think, would it be wrong for them to not re-release an exact copy of a certain champion, but selfishly, if they did Pythion's kit on a Sylvan Watcher or an Ogren or something? I would be thrilled about that for my free to play. Is that a good idea, a bad idea? That's a little bit of a pivot there.
Yeah, no, I like the pivot. I really do. So I'm going to give you a double answer response. So first of all, they have given us Ninja and Tormund recently, and those were all predating me on the account, and those were really game changers from that perspective. I want to say I wouldn't mind them giving us a Pythion again, right?
Yeah.
Just give it back to us. But what I will say is they've actually done this with Glacid, right? So Glacid, they tweaked the kit a little bit. Duchess comes in and she provides more support protection. Glacid comes in, he's got a great kit, and I actually use him in Live Arena too, especially if I can get my Marius. And I've actually been using it with that Handsome Gretel team that we were just talking about, because he brings the defense up in accuracy, and he brings the perfect veil and attack up. And with his passive, he brings 10% bonus damage to your champions. So where Duchess comes in and kind of protects and prevents you from taking the damage, he's coming in and doing it. So I really think Glacid is a great champion that they did give us. And again, he wasn't a fusion or anything like that. It was a get lucky if you pull him type champion. But I would love to see that, with the Pythion, maybe just tweak the kit a little bit. Pythion's bringing that protection that is such a powerful buff in the game. That right there, especially if you add different buffs to your team, but also the cleanse and the block damage. In fact, Pythion was my go-to in Arena for probably a good year and a half, because he protects especially the squishy nukers. He's constantly healing with that A1, and he's got an AoE revived. In fact, I used him way more than I used Elva. And Elva has a similar kit to him. Her heals are different, but she has the cleanse and the block buffs just like he has, and she has a revive, but hers is a single target. And I was just like, you know what? He's just a better champion. Elva's better in that late game, especially if you throw in that 9-piece protection and like Hydra, Chimera, and things like that, and get those big juicy buffs. But I threw Pythion in a bolster set, even with the King and Queen that came into the game, because he also gets that regen, build him a lot of HP. He's a huge support. And on those free-to-play accounts, you really do. If you don't have that champion, you kind of need that. So I love that idea. Let's take some of these really good champions, maybe don't re-release them, but give us a different kit, maybe throw a little tweak in there or something.
Yeah, I've been waiting for Pythion 2.0 for a very, very long time. I don't know if the argument could be made that, I want to call her Santa Claus's wife because I can't, Noelle.
Oh, Noelle,
I don't know if that's the argument to be made, but she doesn't really have the cleanse that I'm looking for outright. Again, I couldn't go for the fusion. So I want to be clear about that. It's a little bit selfish that I'm kind of just really wanting a Pythion 2.0 and they're not giving it to me. It is what it is, right? But we're going to move on to a topic that has been very relevant for me. I've made quite a few videos on this. Is the fusion inflation justified? Now, I'm going to talk just a second about that. The costs of Dungeon Divers went up. We've got, in a recent think for Fabian, we actually had to pull more sacreds than ever before in a summon rush. And then this last guy, we had, instead of a champion chase at the end, which is a little more friendly on shards, we did a second summon rush that was a little bit more expensive than I was prepared for on my main account. That's kind of what I mean by inflation. It feels like they're making it more expensive to get these fusion champions. What do you think? Is that a thing? And do you think it's justified?
Oh, it's 100,000% a thing. And I've actually done some videos on that as well. Here's the thing. It's like when you're doing these fusions, they just give us like layups, right? Like that arena one is just a layup. You can do that in like a single day without even trying hard, right?
Yeah.
And then like Dungeon Divers is just such a grind. And then sometimes, because I used to say that, you used to kind of be guaranteed you'd get two of the, like I'm getting a Spider and Fire Knight that overlaps Dungeon Divers. So I can easily get my Spider. I can go easily and get the Fire Knight. And then the other thing that I think is really annoying with that is that, they gave us the hard versions of those dungeons, but you're still better off running 20. So you're running a bunch of gear you don't even want to keep, but you're getting more bang for your buck, energy to gear drops to help that Dungeon Divers. And I really think they should revamp how they consider that. And then I will say for most fusions, though, you at least have a summon rush and a champ chase. But now that they're kind of tweaking this and doing the hero's path, right? So when they go down the hero's path part and they bake in it's basically a second summon rush, well, now you've nerfed like champion chase, because I'll hold on to previous fusions in that portal and pull them during champ chase and earn points without having to actually use my shards. And now they kind of are starting to slowly take that, nerf that. that and then make us go down this thing where you're right. You're now having to pull 24 sacreds just to go get the 2 things that you need. And by the way, if you're going to skip the fusion, you still got to go waste points on getting a key. I just recently did that with myself because I went and grabbed the 2 legendary books out of that. And I was like, oh, but you're still going to force me to get a key. Now, to be fair, you might have to go get the key so that you don't lock yourself out of the content that you have to go get the soul, the shards for that. But, and then the other thing I'll say is, now we do know, hindsight's 2020, we have the event that's going on right now for the soul, the free champion they're giving us, Ludex, Artor, whatever his name is. And so we know that we have the Titan event. So previously you would have a fusion, Titan event for the soul, or something like that, or a different event to go get the soul. And what I don't like, and again, it's part of that inflation conversation, more so than the points. They've added the points in, you got to do more, but now they're starting to put those souls into that inflated area. So you got to spend more of your resources to go get that soul too, outside of the actual fusion where we used to be able to go do that. And again, I love the fact that they give us an opportunity to earn a 4 or 5-star soul, because those souls are game changers, especially if it's a nuker. You need that 4-star soul for the crit damage. If it's a support champion where you want that resistance and accuracy, you're going to want that 5-star soul. The fact that they put those now into the fusions as well to make us drain those resources harder. They've also changed the point value. So sometimes they'll give you 20 points for an ancient shard, and other times they'll give you 40 points for an ancient shard, or they'll give you, 250 or 300. So they'll actually tweak what they'll give you for a standard shard. It's not always going to be, this many points. So I'm going to shut up and let you talk.
You're fine. You're fine. That's why I brought you on. I wanted to get your opinion. I'm happy to receive it. I'm very, very happy with that. So talk away. But I wanted to kind of piggyback on what you were talking about, how the events themselves too, right? So a selective, which I just talked about over on Zerobrew's channel, our frustrations in Raid. Go check out that video, guys. But this is one of my frustrations, is that they create limiting content to my roster. I might have a really good Fire Knight hard 10 team that I want to do all my events with, because there's a chance I might get a mythical piece of Savage 6-star gear. That's how I want to complete these events. That's, maybe not the most efficient way, but it's how I want to complete them. But then you give me these limitations that make it harder, and as you can clearly see, I have 0 points, right? Like I'm not, despite the fact that I'm going to get the champion on both of my accounts, I'm actually not going for the soul on either account because the events aren't enticing to me. Inflation for fusions as a whole is very, very frustrating, particularly dungeon divers. That we used to be able to triple dip, right? We'd have Spider, Fire Knight, and dungeon divers all on this one day, and I would go spend a bunch of gems on Spider, a bunch of gems on Fire Knight. All 3 of them were done in that day during that one, crossover time frame. Now they've got them so they're not crossing over in the same days. Now they've got it, even though you do both Spider and Fire Knight, you still have not enough points in dungeon divers, and you have to do extra stuff, which is a waste of resources. I am a little jaded right now towards the game. We talked about this before, that I'm at a low point in the game, but I do think it's good. You got peaks and valleys, and I'm in a valley right now, and I'm sure that it's going to peak up in the future. So the one last thing I want to touch on, do we think it's justified? And what I mean by that, the champions, some of them are getting better. Fabian in particular, they're like, okay, Fabian's really good, we're going to charge more sacreds. Do we think that's okay?
If this was a store and you had supply and demand, if you can make more money and, whatever, right? But we're buying digital pixels on a screen, right? I don't think it's justified. And what's really bad is it makes you kind of feel bad in the sense that this is their 6-year anniversary. Here comes Fabian. You knew it was going to be, potentially a game changer because Armand's is a game changer and stuff like that. And so you should really be celebrating. And what's funny is right now there haven't been any player codes to put in. Usually around this time, around Easter, which is major holiday across the world, and all these different things, we're not getting. Now we're getting this community events thing, so I don't want to take away from that, which is kind of cool that they're giving that as well. Maybe that's what they're thinking in their brain, is they're giving us this other stuff, so we don't need to give codes and we don't need to do this other stuff. But when you inflate your thing and say, boom, thanks for sticking with us, it's been 6 years, we're going to give you this awesome champion, but we're going to inflate it and drain more of your resources along the way. It kind of feels like a punch in the gut, right? When you should be celebrating the game that you love.
I agree. I don't think it's justified. Just playing devil's advocate, and again, I don't think it's justified, guys, but playing devil's advocate, we do get resources at a faster rate now. We get clan gold at a far faster rate than we can spend it, first time in a while, stuff of that. So I can understand maybe if they look at it from that perspective, but ultimately what I think it is, I have no way of backing up this assertion. This is a full assumption, but if they're losing some of their big Kraken crazy players, the buck is getting passed on to those of us that need the fusions, because I'm not going to have every champion in the game. I have to go after these fusions because that's valuable to my account. Like my free-to-play valued very much from the new fusion Lysanther Beastbane, but you made it more expensive. That, you know, my free-to-play still did it and got the soul, but I wasn't happy about it. I think perfect balance of fusions for all players is to make a champion that is enticing, which not broken, not Fabian, not Armand's, but enticing. A lot of people didn't like Pythion when he came out. He wasn't good for a lot of accounts.
You know what? That's so funny when you say that. I can think back now, some of the, again, not calling out anybody specifically, but I do remember some of those like more in-game accounts, and I was still like the early and mid-game. I was like, Pythion looks like the best champion in the game right now. What are we talking about? Why would you say don't go for him?
Yeah, it's like I have Duchess, I don't need Pythion, right? And that's fair, but Pythion carried this very account. This was my main account. He was one of the first fusions I did. I wouldn't say the actual first, but one of, and he carried me. He carried me in Clan Boss. My first Ultra Nightmare team had Pythion in it, right? Like he was so freaking good. And so I think it's important to understand that. So make a champion that is enticing, that is on that kind of, you know, okay level, and don't make them too difficult to get, because that's what I was playing the game for. I was playing the game around fusions on both my free-to-play and the main account with the mentality, okay, I'm going to save these resources. We have a fusion coming up. I'm going to go for it. And now it's at the point where it's like, I
was just saying, do I want to go for this mediocre champion? Yeah.
Beastbane was on the cusp, right? He was like barely good enough for me to go for. And then they raised the price on him. And so then he goes below that cusp, right? And so I didn't get him on my main account. The free-to-play, he was like up here on the free-to-play. So I went for him, right? So yeah, I think they need to find some balance there if possible, because I probably should have skipped a lot of the other guys that we talked about. So there were certainly ones that I feel like I'm glad I skipped. Esme, for example. There's a lot of conversation to be had. Maybe this is too much for one video because we are out of time, unfortunately, but any final thoughts real quick? Yeah,
so final thoughts is I saw that clan energy. Go run some stuff and at least get the 3-star. It's only 600 points. Go get that 3-star for Artor, or whatever his name is, the free one that they're giving us.
Yeah.
Because you get the HP, because his healing's based on the HP. But yeah, go grab that 3-star at least and get that defense. He's not going to need crit damage. He's probably not going to need accuracy, maybe resistance, but you can live without that. But that's my final thoughts.
Okay.
But thank you for having me on. I really appreciate it. It's always good when we get to time to connect with this. And special shout out to your wife, who's giving you some time right now to come talk to me. So
I mentioned her on Ash's channel the other day, and she was not happy with me. So
oh no.
It goes on and on and on and on and on.
All right. Well, thank you for coming on. It's always exciting. I love doing collabs. It's not about like, yes, I did a collab with Ash. We talked about that on your channel a little bit, but that was more about getting an opportunity to get somebody else's opinion than the same, you know. So I love doing collabs with everybody because I know I'm not always right. And you brought up a lot of great points. You know, I think back to another collab I did with Bront where he set me straight on Syl of the Drakes. So, you know, that's why I do these things. So thank you for coming on. I super appreciate having you. I'll keep my outro short. Thanks for watching, guys. Go check out Zerobrew's channel. It'll be in the description. And I look forward to seeing you on the next video. Take care.